Welcome to Words to Hold You. I'm Tara, and I'm so glad you're here. This is a place to slow down, to breathe, and to hear the things you maybe needed someone to say to you today. There's a particular kind of tired that has nothing to do with sleep. It's the tired that comes from trying, from showing up again and again, and still feeling like it wasn't quite right. Too much in one moment, and not enough in the next. Maybe today it was a comment that stuck, a comparison you didn't ask for, but made anyway. A silence when you expected a reply. Maybe it wasn't anything specific at all, just a quiet, familiar weight that showed up uninvited, the way it sometimes does. And there it is. I'm not enough. If that thought visited you today, even for a second, I want you to know you are not alone. It's one of the oldest, most common thoughts a mind can produce. It doesn't mean something is wrong with you. It means a thought arrived, and a thought, however loud, is not automatically the truth. It's strange how personal this thought can feel, like it was written specifically for you, about your specific failures in your specific voice. But it wasn't. It's one of the most common thoughts people carry, generation after generation, quietly, without ever comparing notes. If you could hear everyone's private thoughts for just one day, you'd realize how many people are carrying this exact same sentence, word for word, convinced they're the only one. That doesn't make the feeling any less real tonight, but it might make it a little easier to hold, knowing it isn't a verdict written just for you. It's an old, well-worn thought that gets handed to almost everyone at some point, usually without anyone meaning to hand it over at all. Here's something worth knowing. Our minds run on patterns we picked up a long time ago, often before we were old enough to question them. A tone of voice, a comparison made in passing, a moment when we quietly learned that love or approval seemed to depend on being different than we were. These old messages don't disappear. They settle in quietly, and without us noticing, They start replaying, like a tape put on loop so long ago that we've forgotten we're the one holding the remote. Think for a moment, gently, about where a thought like that might have first taken root for you. Maybe it was a specific person, someone whose approval always felt just out of reach, no matter how hard you tried. Maybe it was a specific place, a classroom, a family dinner table, a team you were once part of, where being different felt dangerous somehow. Maybe it wasn't even a single moment. Maybe it was hundreds of small ones, so ordinary that none of them seemed worth remembering on their own. A passing comment here, a comparison there, a look that lasted half a second too long, that quietly built into a belief you've been carrying ever since, without ever really examining it. Here's what's worth noticing. Whoever or whatever planted that thought was working with their own limits at the time. A tired parent, an overwhelmed teacher, a culture that measured worth the wrong way. That doesn't excuse the thought landing where it did. But it does mean the thought was never actually a fact about you. It was a reaction formed under someone else's pressure that got mistaken for the truth simply because you heard it so often and so early. You didn't choose where this thought came from, but you do get to choose whether you keep carrying it forward as if it were a fact. The thought, I am not enough, is very often just an old tape playing, not a fact about who you are today. A pattern, repeating simply because no one ever told it to stop. And here is the part that matters most. What the mind has learned, the mind can unlearn. What was repeated into place can be gently repeated out of place too. Your mind is not fixed. It's far more changeable than that old tape wants you to believe. And every single thought you think today is helping to write what tomorrow feels like. It's tempting to think our power to change lives somewhere far off in the future, once things are different, once we've fixed enough about ourselves. But it doesn't work that way. Your power lives here, in this exact moment, in the thought you choose right after the old one shows up. You can't always stop the first thought, I'm not enough, from arriving uninvited. But you can choose what happens next. You can let it sit in the driver's seat unquestioned the way it always has. Or you can gently answer it. This is easy to say and harder to remember in the moment, especially on a day when the thought arrives loudly, backed up by evidence you've collected for years. So it might help to remember. You don't need to win the argument with this thought all at once. You don't need a perfect comeback. You just need to notice it arrive the way you'd notice weather changing outside a window, without deciding the weather is a judgment about you personally. The thought showed up. That's all that happened. What you do in the next few seconds is where your power actually lives. Not in erasing the thought instantly, but in choosing not to hand it the whole rest of your day or night. Try this quietly to yourself. That's an old thought. It isn't the truth of who I am. That's an old thought. That isn't the truth of who I am. Just noticing that is powerful. You don't need to argue with the thought loudly. You only need to stop agreeing with it automatically. Where your attention goes, your experience tends to follow. So even a small redirection, practiced gently, starts to matter. There's a version of you that exists somewhere quieter than your thoughts. The one who was simply present today, doing what she or he could with what today asked of you. You don't have to do anything with this. You could just imagine, gently, what it might feel like to look at your own reflection and say to yourself softly, I see you. You did enough today. You don't have to say it out loud or believe it fully tonight or believe it at all. You could just let the idea rest somewhere nearby, the way a lamp left on down the hall can make a whole house feel a little less unfamiliar. Kinder thoughts don't tend to arrive all at once. They settle in slowly in their own time if you let them. No effort required, just a little space. If part of you is resisting this right now, thinking, this doesn't apply to me, my situation is different, that's all right. Resistance isn't proof you're wrong. It's just an old pattern doing what it has always done, protecting a belief it's held onto for a long time. You don't have to believe every word of this perfectly tonight. You only have to be willing to think one new thought, even once. That's how change actually begins. You're not behind, and you're not too much. You're a person in this exact moment, learning to offer yourself a kinder thought than the one you were handed a long time ago. You don't have to resolve this tonight or ever fully figure it out. Thoughts like this rarely disappear completely. They just get quieter, less convincing, less automatic, the more often you notice them without immediately believing them. Some days the old thought will still be loud. That doesn't mean you've failed at any of this. It just means today was one of the loud days. Tomorrow might be quieter, or it might not. Either way, you're allowed to keep gently noticing, gently answering, without needing to master it perfectly or all at once. here are some words to hold you as you drift off to sleep. I love and approve of myself exactly as I am. I'm willing to release the belief that I'm not enough. In this moment, I'm doing enough and I am enough. I love and approve of myself exactly as I am. I'm willing to release the belief that I'm not enough. In this moment, I'm doing enough and I am enough. I love and approve of myself exactly as I am. I'm willing to release the belief that I'm not enough. In this moment, I'm doing enough and I am enough. I invite you to be gentle with the thoughts you choose to keep. You're doing better than that old tape wants you to believe. If sleep hasn't quite found you yet, I've left another video from Words to Hold You to help you drift off tonight.